Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try to think positive, something inside you still feels divided, like two invisible forces pulling in opposite directions? Ancient initiates said that this fracture is the root of human suffering. The secret was never about changing the world outside, but about remembering what was lost inside. Long before temples were built of stone, knowledge was carved into vibration itself. It spoke of two currents within every human being, the soul and the spirit, twin energies mistaken for one another after ages of forgetting. That confusion, the ancients warned, would one day enslave entire civilizations. In the age before memory, when the stars of Orion mirrored their light upon the Atlantic, there existed a kingdom not defined by armies but by awareness. Its name, whispered through myth, is Atlantis. There, scholars did not study matter, they studied consciousness. Their laboratories were inner worlds, and their instruments were thought, intention, and sound. They discovered that every being is a living equation, the dense frequency of the soul bound to the limitless frequency of the spirit. When these two aligned, matter obeyed mind. When they drifted apart, chaos began. As the Atlantean temples reached their zenith, another current rose. Pride. Power without reverence corrodes from within, and so the continent trembled beneath its own brilliance. Yet among the priest-scientists stood one who foresaw the collapse. His name was Thoth, guardian of the emerald flame, master of transmutation. Seeing that the tide of darkness could not be stopped, he chose to preserve the light. Upon slabs of imperishable emerald crystal, he engraved the laws of consciousness, the same laws that govern galaxies and atoms alike. When the ocean swallowed Atlantis, those tablets remained, buried beneath the silt of forgotten ages. Millennia later, Thoth returned, not as a myth but as a man among the early dynasties of Chem, what we call Egypt. To the uninitiated he appeared as a god, to the adepts as the scribe of the gods, the living memory of Atlantis. He taught geometry as the language of light, alchemy as the science of vibration, and above all, self-knowledge as the gateway to divinity. His first decree was simple, yet terrifying in its implication. Man, know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods. Most who heard it believed it referred to personality, to memories, desires, and opinions, but Thoth spoke of a deeper anatomy. He said that within every person two realms coexist, one woven of time, emotion, and memory, the soul, and another woven of eternity, silence, and pure awareness, the spirit. The tragedy of mankind is not sin, he said, but identification. Humanity worships its reflection and forgets the light that projects it. The soul is the record, the library of experience, the echoes of every lifetime, the voice that says, I want, I fear, I remember. It vibrates in color and sound, forever moving. The spirit is stillness itself, the white fire behind perception, the consciousness that observes but is never touched. To mistake one for the other is to live in perpetual confusion, forever reacting to the past instead of creating the future. Thoth's teaching was not religion, but physics of consciousness. He revealed that the universe is mental, that energy responds to thought as sound responds to vibration. As above, so below. He inscribed a statement not of poetry but of law. The macrocosm and the microcosm are mirrors. The state of your inner world determines the geometry of your outer one. When humanity fell into the age of sleep, temples turned this science into worship. What was once method became myth. What was once experiment became faith. Priests replaced explorers, and the living dialogue between soul and spirit was reduced to prayers directed outward. The seeker was told to beg instead of remember. The divine spark was hidden beneath layers of dogma. Yet Thoth's current never ceased. Like a signal buried beneath static, it continues to vibrate through time, calling to those who can still feel that there is something missing in the modern equation of existence. The whisper comes in dreams, synchronicities, sudden intuitions, a reminder that you are not the noise in your mind but the silence behind it. And so the question returns, The same question asked in every mystery school from Atlantis to Alexandria. Who are you? The soul that remembers, or the spirit that knows? The answer is not given through belief. It must be experienced. To know it, you must learn to separate the two rivers flowing within you, to hear which one speaks from fear and which one speaks from eternity. Only then can they be reunited in harmony. This was the first initiation, the beginning of the great work. Thoth promised that when humanity once again distinguishes the painting from the canvas, the reflection from the light, the era of confusion will end. The bridge between heaven and earth will be rebuilt, not through temples of stone, but through the human being itself. And that bridge begins with understanding the science of vibration, the very breath of creation.
To understand vibration is to understand the heartbeat of the universe itself. Every atom, every planet, every thought is a note in an infinite symphony. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything sings. The ancients did not see the world as solid, but as sound condensed into geometry. Matter, to them, was music slowed down. This was not metaphor. It was measurement. They built temples whose proportions matched the ratios of harmonic scales, because they knew that resonance could open gateways between worlds. When Thoth spoke of the principle of vibration, he was revealing that the difference between the visible and the invisible is only a difference in frequency. The spirit vibrates at the highest octave, so high that it appears still. The soul, entangled with emotion and memory, vibrates slower, creating the illusion of solidity and separation. Human life, then, is not a random sequence of events. It is a score being played. The instrument is your body. The strings are your nerves. The musician is consciousness itself. Most people live as broken instruments, unaware that their discordant emotions keep them trapped in repetitive melodies of fear and desire. The goal of the initiates was not to escape life, but to tune it, to bring the dense vibration of the soul into harmony with the pure tone of the spirit. When that alignment is achieved, miracles become mathematics. Healing, manifestation, intuition, these are not supernatural. They are resonance perfected. Thoth taught that every emotion corresponds to a frequency: fear, shame, guilt, low and heavy dragging the body into contraction; love, gratitude, peace, vast and luminous expanding awareness until boundaries dissolve. The universe responds not to what you request, but to what you radiate. You do not attract by words, but by wavelength. This is why prayers spoken from despair go unanswered, while silent gratitude reshapes reality. The cosmos is a mirror that vibrates back to you the song you are playing. As above, so below. In the temples of the sun, adepts learned to read their own energy fields as if studying the stars. They understood that anger was not evil, but a distortion asking for attunement. That sadness was not weakness, but the soul attempting to realign with light. They practiced the art of transmutation, raising the frequency of emotion through awareness rather than suppression. To them, alchemy was never about lead and gold. Lead symbolized the heavy vibration of ignorance. Gold, the radiant frequency of awakened consciousness. The furnace was the heart. The philosopher's stone was clarity. Modern man has forgotten this science. He confuses distraction with peace, noise with life, movement with progress. He floods his senses with artificial frequencies, screens, slogans, and signals until the natural rhythm of the spirit can no longer be heard. Yet, beneath the static, the original note remains. Waiting. The silence behind every thought is the doorway to it. You do not need to invent harmony. You need only remove interference. When an initiate entered the chamber of resonance, he was asked one question. Can you hear the sound behind all sounds? In the darkness, surrounded by the hum of vibrating walls, the student would sit until the external faded and an inner tone emerged, a pure, continuous sound existing within all things. The ancients called it the voice of light. Today, you might call it the frequency of consciousness itself. Once heard, it can never be unheard. It is the signature of the spirit. To live in tune with that frequency is to be guided without effort. Decisions cease to be dilemmas. They become movements in a greater composition. Synchronicities appear not as coincidences but as harmonics aligning to your tone. This is what the mystics meant when they said the universe conspires for those who are awake. It is not favoritism. It is physics. When your inner vibration matches the rhythm of the source, creation itself begins to echo your intent. But to reach that state, you must first face the noise of your own soul, the echoes of past pain, the patterns of fear that replay like unfinished songs. Do not fight them. Observe them. Each dissonant feeling is a note calling for integration. When you stop judging the sound and start listening to its message, transformation begins. The heavy becomes light, the chaotic becomes melodic. The soul ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a choir directed by the Spirit. Thoth called this the marriage of heaven and earth. Heaven is not a place in the sky. It is the vibrational realm of the Spirit. Earth is not merely soil. It is the embodied field of the soul. When the two unite consciously within you, the result is sovereignty. You are no longer pulled by circumstance. You orchestrate it. You stop being an echo of the world and become its origin. This was the true purpose of the Emerald Tablets, to restore the forgotten science of tuning the human instrument. Not worship, but calibration. Not belief, but resonance. To remind the seeker that enlightenment is not escape from matter, but mastery of vibration within it. And now, the question arises, if vibration is the language of the universe, what melody are you playing with your life? Every thought, every word, every breath is a chord shaping the architecture of reality. You cannot fake the tone. The universe does not hear what you say. It feels what you are. To raise your vibration, then, is not to pretend to be light. It is to remember that you already are. The process begins in silence, in gratitude, in the sacred awareness of the body that anchors spirit into form. From there, compassion refines the tone, and conscious intention gives it direction. It is in the disciplined practice of these forces that the soul, once noisy and reactive, learns to move in perfect rhythm with the still spirit. And when that happens, the boundary between inner and outer dissolves, and reality itself begins to sing your name. When you begin to listen deeply, you realize that inside you there are two voices speaking at once. One is loud, emotional, insistent. It narrates, argues, complains, desires. It says, "I am angry. I am afraid. I want more." That voice belongs to the soul, the archive of experience, the echo of every victory and wound. The other voice is not really a voice at all. It is a stillness, a field of awareness beneath the noise. It does not argue. It simply observes. That is the spirit. Every moment of confusion in human life comes from mistaking one for the other. The soul reacts. The spirit witnesses. The difference is not small. It is the line between bondage and freedom. Thoth taught that this duality is the laboratory of every seeker. The task is not to silence the soul, but to see it clearly, to recognize its movements without identification. When fear rises, the untrained mind merges with it and becomes fear. The adept steps back and says, "Fear is present." That distance, one breath, one heartbeat, is where alchemy begins. In that space, the energy that once enslaved you becomes raw material for awakening. The emotion does not need to vanish. It needs to be observed. Observation is transmutation. Awareness is fire. Imagine your consciousness as a lamp. When you identify with the soul, the lamp is covered with the smoke of thought and emotion. The light still shines but distorted. The world looks chaotic, hostile, uncertain. When you remember you are the light itself, not the smoke, clarity returns. You see that the external world was never your enemy. It was your reflection. Each person who hurt you, each disappointment, each delay, was a mirror showing which part of your own soul still demanded healing. This is why Thoth said, "He who masters himself masters the stars." The universe does not change by prayer or punishment. It changes because your perception changes. The soul projects. The spirit reflects. When you are lost in projection, you live in the past, reacting to shadows. When you live in reflection, the present moment expands until it becomes eternity. Time dissolves, and what remains is pure awareness, uncolored, unshaken. The first training in the temples was simple yet relentless. Watch. Watch every thought as it arises. Watch every emotion as it blooms and fades. Do not judge. Do not interfere, just see. At first, the mind rebels. It craves movement, drama, reaction. But if you persist, something extraordinary happens. Between stimulus and response, a silence appears, a sacred interval. Within that silence, the voice of the spirit can finally be heard. It does not shout. It whispers through intuition, synchronicity, calm certainty. It has no arguments, no logic, yet its guidance is unmistakable. This practice of watching was called the art of the second sight, not seeing with the eyes but with the inner perception that observes without distortion. The priests would tell their students, when you can watch your anger without acting, your fear without fleeing, your desire without chasing, then you will hear the true voice. That voice is the current of the Spirit, the eternal witness beneath every wave. To hear it is to remember who you are, and once you remember, the game of reaction loses its hold. The soul becomes transparent. Its storms still occur, but they no longer shake the ocean. You begin to live from the center rather than the edge. You discover that peace is not the absence of conflict but the presence of perspective. The spirit remains calm even in the hurricane, because it knows the hurricane is also itself in motion. This is how the masters of old navigated destiny. They were not detached from life. They were anchored in clarity. They could feel anger without hatred, pain without despair, desire without obsession. They were free not because they escaped emotion, but because they no longer drowned in it. The soul, purified by awareness, became the perfect vessel of the spirit. To reach this state, you need no ritual, no belief, no temple. Only attention, pure, steady attention to what is happening inside. The mind will resist, the ego will invent distractions, but the law is simple. What you observe consciously cannot control you. Each time you look without reacting, a fragment of the old programming dissolves. Each time you return to stillness, the bridge between soul and spirit strengthens. And so the real journey is not upward or outward, but inward. The destination is not heaven above the clouds, but the luminous center within your own being. When that center becomes your home, fear loses meaning, desire becomes direction, and every breath feels like the first moment of creation. It is here, in this fusion of awareness and life, that the next principle reveals itself, the secret that the ancients called mental alchemy, the power to transmute thought itself and reshape the mirror of reality. For when the soul and spirit begin to act as one, your mind becomes the instrument through which the universe speaks. And what it says next depends entirely on what you choose to think. Thought, in its purest form, is the architect of worlds. The ancients called this the principle of mentalism. All is mind, and the universe is a projection of consciousness. Modern science now echoes what Thoth wrote in emerald lines. Energy follows intention. What you think is not confined to the skull. It radiates through every layer of existence, shaping probabilities into events. The untrained mind scatters this power through constant noise. The awakened one directs it like a laser. The difference is not privilege, but precision. When your soul and spirit begin to cooperate, the mind stops being a tyrant and becomes a tool. Until that moment, it is the master you mistakenly serve. You believe every story it tells, every doubt, every limitation. It imagines disaster, and your body reacts with fear. It repeats failure, and your energy collapses. You live inside a self-created storm. Thoth called this the curse of the unguarded scribe, for the mind writes reality in every breath. To reclaim your power, you must take the pen back. The process is mental alchemy, transforming the lead of unconscious thought into the gold of deliberate creation. It begins not by suppressing negativity but by observing it as vibration. A fearful thought is dense energy. When you meet it with awareness instead of belief, it dissolves into its lighter form, clarity. This is why the Emerald Tablets insist that the all is mind. Every emotion, every circumstance begins as a mental wave. The alchemist changes the pattern at its source, not its surface. Imagine your mind as a prism. The spirit shines white light through it. If the prism is clouded by distortion, old beliefs, guilt, resentment, the beam that projects into your world becomes fragmented. You see chaos, lack, conflict. Clean the prism, and the light passes unbroken. Your outer life brightens because your inner optics clear. This is not philosophy. It is energetic geometry. Your thoughts bend the light that forms matter. Once, in the halls of Hermopolis, Thoth's students performed an experiment. They focused on a single symbol, a circle containing a point representing the unity of soul and spirit. For days they held this image, breathing in rhythm with the rising sun. On the seventh dawn, the air shimmered around them. Birds changed flight patterns, wind reversed direction. The priests recorded the event not as miracle but as confirmation. Mind moves matter when aligned with the divine current. You are no different. Each thought you repeat becomes a magnetic signature, drawing experiences that match its tone. The universe is impartial. It does not reward or punish, it reflects. When you think from fear, you tune into the frequency of fear, and fear answers. When you think from peace, peace arranges circumstances in your favor. The outer is the echo of the inner. This is the true meaning of as above, so below. Yet modern humanity, enslaved by distraction, tries to change the reflection instead of the source. People chase wealth while vibrating scarcity, seek love while broadcasting unworthiness. They polish the mirror while ignoring the face. The mystic reverses the approach. He withdraws his attention from appearance and alters the blueprint, his state of mind. Then reality obeys without resistance. This alignment is not a trick of positive thinking. It is a disciplined calibration of consciousness. You learn to choose thoughts that resonate with the frequency of the spirit: peace, trust, expansion. When doubt arises, you acknowledge it but do not feed it. When fear whispers, you meet it with the certainty of awareness. Each act of conscious choice strengthens the neural bridge between the mortal and the divine. Over time, your default vibration rises. Life begins to organize itself around that higher note. The priests called this the return of the scribe. To live as a conscious scribe means to write your reality with intention, not reaction. Every morning becomes a ceremony. You awaken, breathe, and decide what chapter to compose today. Not through wishful thinking, but through alignment. You do not ask the universe for light. You decide to be the source of it. Then the world mirrors that decision. As your mastery deepens, subtle phenomena appear: synchronicities, timely encounters, intuitive knowledge. These are not rewards but reflections of coherence. When soul, spirit, and mind operate in harmony, creation flows without friction. Obstacles become instructions, and time itself bends to your clarity. You understand that destiny is not written in the stars but in thought, and the stars only echo it. Still, Thoth warned his initiates. Power without purification leads back to shadow. If the soul seeks to command reality from ego, the energy collapses. True creation requires humility, the recognition that you and the source are not two forces but one continuum. The spirit does not dominate the soul. It guides it. The magician who forgets this falls again into separation. Mental alchemy is therefore a marriage, not a conquest. You do not erase the human self. You enlighten it. You let your thoughts serve the rhythm of the spirit instead of the noise of fear. In that surrender lies supreme control, the paradox of divine mastery. When you grasp this, reality itself feels lighter. Problems lose their weight because they are seen as patterns ready to be rewritten. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What vibration is this showing me?" With that question, the scribe becomes the philosopher becomes the creator, and from that point a new chapter begins, the practice of living the formula, not just knowing it. For thought alone is theory. Embodiment is power. The next revelation Thoth inscribed was not about mind, but about manifestation, how to anchor the vibration of spirit into the matter of daily life, how to make heaven visible through the hands of man. To bring heaven into matter is to remember that the divine does not descend from above. It rises from within. The spirit seeks expression through the form you inhabit, and your body is the temple where that descent takes place. The old masters called it the sacred union, the marriage of heaven and earth inside the human frame. Without the body, the spirit cannot act. Without the spirit, the body decays into instinct and repetition. The purpose of life was never escape but integration, the spirit illuminating the soul animating the flesh, the three becoming one current of creation. Thoth taught that this union could not be forced. It had to be cultivated through 5 keys, each one a law of vibration. The first key is silence. In silence, the reactive mind loses power. The constant commentary of the soul fades, and the still resonance of the spirit becomes audible. True silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of resistance. When you sit in stillness, you stop pushing against life, and the energy that was scattered returns to you as strength. 1 minute of conscious silence can accomplish more transformation than hours of mechanical prayer. The second key is gratitude. Gratitude shifts frequency instantly. It is not a virtue, but an instrument of physics. The soul, programmed to focus on lack, constantly lowers its vibration through complaint. Gratitude reverses the current. It forces awareness to notice what already vibrates with abundance. The moment you feel genuine appreciation, your field expands, drawing more experiences that match that tone. Gratitude is not blind optimism. It is alignment with the truth that existence itself is a gift. The third key is the body as temple. The ancients never separated spirituality from biology. They knew that posture, breath, and movement determine the clarity of consciousness. A curved spine blocks the flow of subtle energy. An upright one turns you into an antenna of light. Breathing with awareness rebalances the nervous system, allowing the spirit to anchor more fully in matter. Food, touch, rest, and rhythm are all forms of worship when performed with consciousness. The spirit does not despise the flesh. It sanctifies it. The fourth key is compassion. Compassion dissolves the illusion of separation that keeps the soul trapped in polarity. To see another's pain and recognize your own reflection in it is to expand beyond the prison of self. Start with yourself, your own wounds, mistakes, and fears. Instead of condemnation, offer understanding. When you do, judgment softens, vibration rises, and the walls between you and the world thin until they disappear. Compassion is the frequency of unity, the natural language of the spirit. The fifth key is conscious intention. Every morning, before the noise of the world enters, set your direction. Intention organizes energy the way a magnet arranges iron filings. Without it, your day disperses into randomness. With it, each moment serves a coherent pattern. This is not control. It is guidance. You declare to the universe what melody you choose to play, and creation harmonizes around it. Today, I embody peace. Today, I act as light. Spoken with awareness, these are not wishes. They are commands written into the fabric of reality. Practiced together, these 5 keys form a bridge between the frequencies of soul and spirit. They recalibrate your entire field. Neural pathways shift, emotions stabilize, and perception clears. You begin to experience the world not as an external arena, but as an echo of your inner vibration. This is the foundation of all manifestation. You do not get what you want. You get what you are. The priests of Thoth said that when the 5 keys are mastered, the human body becomes the 6th. the living altar. The energy that once leaked through emotion now radiates as presence. People feel it before you speak. Animals approach without fear. Time bends around your intention. You are not manipulating energy. You have become its natural conductor. This is the meaning of raising vibration. It is not an escape from density, but the refinement of it. The lead of the old self turns to gold because it now carries light. The transformation is not abstract. Your relationships shift because you stop reacting from wounds and start responding from awareness. Your work gains clarity because it aligns with purpose instead of survival. Health improves because energy flows unobstructed through the physical vessel. The same world remains, but you perceive it through the lens of unity, and perception is creation. When the initiates reached this stage, Thoth would tell them, "You are now the bridge, the point where heaven touches the earth." It was never about hierarchy or divinity granted from elsewhere. It was about responsibility, the understanding that every thought, word, and gesture affects the planetary field. Raising your vibration raises the collective. The light of one awakened being recalibrates thousands who still sleep, and so the practice becomes service. You live not to escape the human experience, but to redeem it, to turn every act, speaking, working, loving, into an offering of consciousness. When soul and spirit move as one, even breathing becomes prayer, and the ordinary world reveals its hidden holiness. This was the essence of Thoth's final lesson, that awakening is not a solitary triumph, but a collective resonance. Each human who lights their inner flame becomes a lighthouse, guiding others through the fog of forgetfulness. And as more lights ignite, the frequency of the planet itself changes. Heaven does not wait in the sky. It blooms here, through you, through every act of awareness lived in matter. From this realization, one final revelation arises, the ultimate law inscribed on the emerald surface, as above, so below. To understand it fully is to see that creation is a mirror, consciousness the hand that writes upon it, and whatever you write within, the cosmos must reflect without. When you finally see the mirror for what it is, the illusion of separation ends. As above, so below is not a metaphor about heaven and earth. It is a precise equation between the unseen and the seen. The above is your inner state, the mental and spiritual plane. The below is your lived experience, the physical universe that only appears solid because vibration has slowed to visibility. Every thought, every emotion, every belief is a brushstroke on that mirror. The world you inhabit is your reflection painted in light. Most people try to change the mirror, scrubbing at the reflection with effort, anger, or prayer, never realizing that the image can only change when the face changes. They fight circumstances while keeping the same vibration that produced them. The mystic reverses the approach. They withdraw from the noise, adjust the inner frequency, and watch the outer rearrange itself with mathematical precision. This is the supreme law Thoth sealed in the emerald tablets. The outer obeys the inner because they are the same field viewed from two sides. Once you live by this law, responsibility replaces blame. There are no enemies, only reflections. There is no fate, only feedback. When pain appears, you no longer ask, "Why me?" You ask, "What am I being shown?" The question turns suffering into information. In that moment, awareness transforms reality at its root. You stop reacting and start creating. This understanding reshapes destiny. Synchronicities multiply because alignment has replaced resistance. What used to be called miracles become predictable consequences of coherence. You think of someone, and they appear. A door closes, another opens precisely where it should. The universe is not granting favors. It is following resonance. The below begins to mirror the perfection of the above with no delay. You recognize guidance not as a voice from the sky, but as the quiet rhythm of events perfectly timed. Thoth's final initiation was to live as this principle. The initiate had to embody heaven on earth, to walk, speak, and breathe as the meeting point of both realms. It required total awareness that every gesture was an act of creation, every word a vibration entering the universal field. When such awareness becomes constant, life turns into ceremony. You no longer seek signs, you become one. The divine expresses itself through your ordinary movements because there's no longer a gap between the sacred and the mundane. This is the completion of the alchemical marriage, spirit and soul acting as one organism. The spirit provides the light, the soul gives it shape, and together they manifest a world that mirrors unity. You discover that the purpose of existence was never to escape the physical, but to consecrate it, to turn matter into a vessel of consciousness. Each breath becomes an offering. Each challenge becomes raw material for transmutation. Yet, Thoth warned that knowledge without embodiment collapses into pride. Understanding the laws is not enough. They must be lived. Enlightenment is not a destination but a daily discipline, returning again and again to silence, gratitude, compassion, intention. It is the continual act of choosing awareness over reaction. Even masters stumble. The difference is that they stumble consciously and rise faster. They know that the process itself is perfection in motion. When you live this way, fear loses its purpose. It becomes fuel for clarity. Desire turns into direction. The duality of light and dark dissolves into one current moving toward greater coherence. You realize that evolution is not something that happens to you. It happens through you. Each moment of awareness expands the collective field of the planet. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean recognizing itself as a drop. This realization is the true awakening. Not escape, not superiority, but remembrance. You remember that the same intelligence that moves galaxies moves your breath. The same geometry that forms the stars shapes the thoughts in your mind. The same energy that ignites suns beats in your heart. There has never been separation, only degrees of awareness. And so the final instruction of the Emerald Tablets is simple. Become the reflection of the above in all that you do. Let every word, every thought, every action carry the vibration of the source. When anger rises, meet it with light. When doubt whispers, answer with stillness. When the world darkens, be the lamp that proves darkness is only the absence of awareness. This is not mysticism. It is mechanics. Consciousness is the engine of creation. Each human who awakens to this truth becomes a frequency node, a transmitter of coherence in the vast field of being. And as more of these nodes ignite, the planetary vibration rises. The return of light is not an event in the sky. It is a collective remembering taking place within hearts across the earth. Thoth said that when humanity once again knows the difference between soul and spirit, the veil will fall and heaven will be visible in every ordinary thing. That moment is now. The knowledge has returned because the world is ready to remember. The temples are no longer made of stone. They are made of human awareness. You are the temple. You are the bridge. You are the scribe of creation, writing reality with every pulse of thought. So look into the mirror, not to admire or condemn, but to recognize. The reflection staring back is not separate from the source that made it. It is the source, dreaming itself through your eyes. Honor that dream by living awake. Speak with intention. Feel with compassion. Create with clarity. For every act of awareness is an act of creation, and every conscious being is the continuation of the divine mind. This is the message Thoth preserved through the flood of ages. This is the wisdom Atlantis tried to guard, the secret hidden beneath symbols and myth. As above, so below. As within, so without. The journey ends where it began, with you, breathing, aware, alive. The soul and spirit no longer divided, but merged into one luminous current moving through form. Heaven and earth no longer distant, but touching in every heartbeat. Creation looking at itself and finally remembering its own name.